Hey, thanks for taking the Shadow Personality Quiz, the only quiz in the entire world that actually reveals what your shadow personality is and provides you a personalized framework on how to engage in shadow work. You've probably received either More Discovery Needed or the Innovator Shadow. Now, check out this video for more details and contact me if you would like to go deeper.
Hey everybody, so in this video we're going to be talking about the Innovator Shadow. And just to refresh you on what the shadow is the part of our personalities that is underdeveloped, and we often will repress expressions from that place, and we tend to cast it aside and we don't really try and show it in our conscious life. So this could look like a myriad of different things. For example, let's say you believe that people being rude is something that you really dislike. However, you being rude is something that's in the shadow, right? You don't want people seeing that you're rude, but sometimes you can be. So the shadow contains different qualities, and it can be based on your persona. So let's talk about the innovator shadow. The innovator shadow is related to what the innovator does not prefer. Innovators do not prefer sensing and feeling in their conscious day-to-day use. Okay. And so we know that in part because of more or less when people make a clear choice in something indicating what they prefer, they also are making a choice of what they do not prefer. And using this type of model, we can unpack further what those unpreferred things actually mean and how they tend to show up. So because innovators prefer intuition and thinking and do not prefer sensing and feeling, it shows up in their shadow as being overindulgent and senseless. So let's take a look at how this tends to show up in the sensing and feeling part of the innovator's personality. So remember that sensing deals with the five senses. So, what you can see, touch, taste, hear, smell, right? And these things also relate to the body as well, right? These relate to how the body perceives and the body experiences, day-to-day events. And because the innovator's shadow does have sensing in it, and particularly for ENTPs, those exploring innovators, and the INTJs, those visionary innovators, procrastinators, that's for ENTP, and cravers, that's for the INTJs, because their least developed habit is sensing. So they may give excessive attention to the particulars of how things are going, sometimes getting sucked into irrelevant details of things, and also showing a lack of energy for the present moment. And this is where that procrastination can come in, and the craving can come in from a standpoint of where maybe in their conscious life they neglect some bodily aspects in terms of whether it's physical fitness or eating a healthy meal. They may, when in the shadow, opt to do the exact opposite of those things. So avoid exercise or, pretty much deprioritize it. And they may find themselves overindulging in, say, a lot of like snacks and foods that aren't typically healthy to consume over time in the long run. So that is a little bit more about sensing for the ENTP and INTJ shadow. Now, let's talk about the ENTJ and the INTP. So the ENTJ shadow deals with feeling, and that comes across as a doubter. And the INTP shadow deals with feeling as well, and it comes across as a reactor. So both of these innovators, because their least developed habit is feeling, they may be overly sensitive to disagreement or negative feedback and become frustrated with how others treat them and can struggle to communicate their emotions, unless they're emotionally intelligent, that is. Now, here's the thing. Innovators that struggle with either one of these, here's the thing. It's important to first have a systematic way of understanding what these things mean. And this is in part why I have created InMotion and the social fitness programs, is to give people a system for how to unpack and engage in self-discovery for the purposes of improving their emotional life, right? And finding fulfillment. And so as an innovator, as you're processing this, give some thought to how, when you are not feeling like yourself, right? When you are feeling maybe low, tired, and uncomfortable, think about some of your expressions when you feel like that and when you're in that headspace, and give some consideration and try to cross reference what I'm talking about here with the shadow with some of your expressions. And this is important to do in part because it will help you get a clearer idea of why those things happen, and putting a name and some information and some language around that part of ourselves makes it a bit more clear. And this is the process of engaging in what we call shadow work. Shadow work is the reintegration of repressed parts of our personality. So, put another way, it is us as an innovator integrating and reintegrating sensing and feeling expressions and habits back into our conscious personality in order to become holistic, right? In order to become whole. And that's the ultimate point of shadow work, is really to, again, mitigate those sort of immature expressions of that other side of us, and to avoid becoming one-sided throughout our lives. There's a risk in not doing shadow work, right? Not doing shadow work leads us to a one-sided life. And just to share a quick note on the one-sided life, this can look like someone's personality becoming very rigid, unable to change or see things differently, and it may lead to them having relationship challenges or even personal self-management challenges over the long term, in part because there are aspects of sensing and feeling that are absolutely essential to having a fulfilling life. Just as if I was talking to a giver persona, there are absolutely aspects of intuitive and thinking that are essential to living a fulfilling life. So the point here is to integrate them together. Because if you don't, and if you remain in the shadow, many systems in your life will begin to break down. I think first you would be starting with one's relationships be breaking down. Then their body would be breaking down, given due to maybe choices in what they tend to do with their food and like how they consume and how they kind of maintain their physique. These are all things that can begin to break down if an innovator in the shadow does not engage in shadow work. So, if you are interested in going more in depth into shadow work, I run an 8-week long program called Outsmarting Your Emotions, where you will not only learn your specific persona, all right, so you will know if you're a visionary, innovator, or the following three, but you also are going to be spending several weeks doing shadow work activities. And these are intentionally designed to help you get a sense of what it's like. It's almost exposure to what it's like to be a giver, or what it's like to be or use that sensing feeling in a conscious way, and trying to do it in a mature, conscious way. So if you are interested in that, definitely reach out to me and let's talk, because shadow work is very important, and it ultimately can lead you on the path to becoming well-rounded and ultimately leading you to fulfillment.